pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yeah, welcome to the Town of Brunswick Zoning Board of Appeals regular meeting for November 21st, 2022. We'll begin by reviewing the draft minutes of our previous meeting held on October 17th, 2022. And reviewing them, I would make a motion to approve them without amendment as member second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Patricia. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Draft minutes have been approved. Just want to note that the Zoning Board of Appeals special meeting was not held on November 7th for the 42 Homestead Avenue application. The application is on tonight's agenda. We will review the agenda as posted on the town website, also on the paper at Eastwood Press and out on the town signboard. We have one old business tonight, and that is at 42 Homestead Avenue as an area variance, followed by a few new business applications. We'll begin at 836 Tamarack Road, followed by 218 South Lake Avenue, followed by perhaps Come What May, and lastly, at 664 Hoosick Road, Wendy's for a sign application. So the first item of business on the agenda is Fung area variance. The applicant seeks an area variance in connection with the extension of a garage on property located at 42 Homestead Avenue. Mr. Van Fung is the applicant. I'll ask the applicant to come forward and just to update the board if there have been any changes to the application materials since we last met.
Good evening, no changes.
Okay, very good. So what we'll do then is we'll open the public hearing, so take a seat. Thank you. So that this is a public hearing, so we will, the board will open it for receipt of any public comment on this application. I'm going to ask our attorney to read the public hearing that was posted, noting that it was published in the Eastwood Press, the official paper of the town, placed on the town signboard, posted on the town website, and mailed to all owners of adjacent property within 300 feet.
Notice of public hearing. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Town of Brunswick at 6 p.m. on Monday, November 21, 2022, at the Brunswick Town Hall, 336 Town Office Road, Brunswick, New York, 12180, concerning the application submitted by Van Fung for an area variance in connection with the extension of a garage on property located at 42 Homestead Avenue. Copies of the application are available at the Brunswick Town Hall and are available for public inspection during regular business hours. All interested persons will be heard at the public hearing.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Overpress. If you'd like to come up now and speak for the application or against, you're welcome to do so. We'll note for the record that the board is in receipt of a letter dated November 20th, 2022. It was mailed to the building department. Chuck, would you like to read that letter into the record, please?
Dear Mr. Golden, I'm writing to you today regarding the memorandum received for the public hearing notice with respect to the property located at 42 Hummiston Avenue. I unfortunately have a conflict at the scheduled time of the hearing and wanted to share my concerns with this application in writing since I will not be able to attend. My main concern is Mr. Van Fung is asking for another variance on the property when the original approved variance continues to lag. The unfinished work of the main structure is a significant eyesore and has been 2 years since the start of the project. I urge the town to mandate the owner of 42 Hummiston Avenue to finish the work started on the original structure, which was approved in September of 2020. My family and are concerned with the lack of progress with Mr. Van Fung's project, which in my opinion is causing my property value to decline. With that said, I urge the zoning board to not approve any additional applications for area variances at 42 Humeston Avenue until Mr. Von Fung finishes through with what he was promised in his original application. Thank you, Antoinetta Mazzarillo, homeowner 50 Humeston Avenue, Troy, New York, 12182.
Thank you, Chuck. Are there any questions for the applicant from zoning board members? If you just want to come up, I have a couple questions for you. Thanks. And the first is just to review the setbacks, in particular the left setback, which is abuts the neighbor in particular, and the proposed setback is within limits. So this variance is not requesting a setback relief, but for the size of the building. Is that correct? Yes. And then with the help of Chuck, just want to kind of clarify what that relief would be. I have some notes here. So this is Chuck to you and to the applicant. So that I understand correctly, what's being proposed with the addition of the lean-to and the decking would be a total of 3,826 square feet. Is that correct?
I believe that's what I had in there.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
what I got.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So then, I guess I'm looking at it three ways, and I know there's one way, and I just kind of want everyone to be on the same page of the one way that we're going to look at this. So we could take it three ways. And given that that's the proposed amount, that 3,800. So then what is approved at, from the old variances is the 2,978 feet. That's what's proposed. We're working with the same numbers, right?
I had 2,940.
Which is what I had.
The original approval was
Right.
the 1920 for the ground floor and 1020 for the loft area.
Okay, so 40.
So 2940.
Yep.
But they actually built 2946. Is that correct?
Right, that's right. Currently, that's what is in place, 2,946 square feet. That's what I have as well. And I'm just going through this exercise just so we're all working with the same
Mhm.
numbers. So, all right, we'll go with that. So then, what was previously approved and what's currently there, the difference is 880 feet.
No, I'm sorry, John was coughing.
Sorry, 880 feet.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, for the additional, yes.
Right.
Yep.
And then that's going to be broken up into the lean-to and into the deck.
Right, yep, 16 by 25 deck and 16 by 30.
Okay.
Chuck, what was the deck?
The deck size is 16 by 25.
Yep.
The lean-to size is 16 by 30.
So thank you for going through that with me. That's our baseline. One of the questions I have for the applicants is, how are you planning to access the second story deck? Is it indeed a second story deck? It's
There will be a
elevated?
staircase from the loft,
Right.
and accessible to the loft, also there will be a staircase on the outside.
Okay, so,
There will be two
interior.
egress.
And then my question then is for you, Chuck. Is that what you're seeing? Is that allowed, or we have, the zoning board does not have to deal with the access to this decking? That's kind of
Right.
within your parameters, and you feel that what you have seen kind of shakes up.
Yes, there are 2 points of egress. And egress.
So, but at one point, you went there and looked at the loft area
Mhm.
to determine that because the loft area
Does take up only one side.
takes
The
up
other
one
side,
side.
the other side is all framed.
It's not framed in or built or have the requirements for living space.
Right.
So how does that then, because it's supposed to be for storage, that was part of the original request. The
Mhm.
second floor was just strictly for storage. And now there will be activity with people going up to that loft area to go in and out.
Well, the use of the deck, and Vaughn can, I would assume that you were working there and realized what a great view you have out of the back of the place and said this would be a great place for a deck. That's what I, assumed how it came about. And
Yeah, it was definitely an afterthought, and being able to have the door up there, you can bring in any of the, like, kind of the furniture that would be on the deck, be able to pull it inside instead of having to bring it up and down the outside stairs. So I think that would be helpful for that, just being able to have that other way to access it from inside.
And from the drawings, there is no door yet.
No door.
No, there's no door yet.
But the design of the building was such that a work platform had to be put up there to be able to reach the top of the structure. And I imagine, from a work platform comes, wow, this would be a nice place for a deck. It's-
Makes sense, right? Yeah.
So the neighbor, the closest neighbor, sent in the letter. What is between, this current building that's going on and her property?
Her yard, it's much of it is left wild, and then there's some of her manicured yard, and then her house is at the other end of the property.
In terms of elevation, she sits above you.
Yeah.
Homestead goes up the hill.
Do you have an estimated time frame on when you're going to complete the project?
We love to complete as soon as possible. One of the reasons I haven't put the siding yet is because we waited until the lean-to is built, that we could work the siding around it. With the corner and stuff, and that's why the siding hasn't gone up. The other thing is that the pandemic, going on in the past couple of years, it's been tough to get people to come and actually, finish the yard. That's why it's grading and such.
So we have the siding,
We have the
so
siding.
it's kind of ready to go once we have the things that need to be done in the backup.
The siding has been there for the last 4 months,
Yeah.
sitting outside. But we're not gonna put up the siding until the lean-to is done, that way we can wrap everything around.
So when you put in your original application back in 2000, you said that you needed a garage large enough to renovate your Airstream, and also to park your vehicles, the trailer, and your boats in the garage, and also that you you're going to put solar panels on the roof and also park your 2 electric cars inside and charge them. So now you're asking for the lean-to park
The boats
boat.
outside, yes.
but that was included in the initial application that this large garage was going to be big enough to park that in there.
You're right about that. Initially, that was the plan, but then when I realized that once we start working on the camper, I won't be able to move it in and out. Once I open up the camper, I won't have room anymore to move stuff around. And that's why the boat, if I will keep the boat in the lean-to, then that will give me room to work on the camper and park the 2 vehicles.
But at one point, you had asked the question at one of the meetings, that the work on the camper is a not a permanent like project. Yes, it will take time, but were we coming up with this permanent solution for something that's temporary, like building this large building? So eventually, the camper, that work will be done, and there would be room for the boat inside.
I would anticipate the project for the camper to rehab it. As train trailer would take maybe 4 to 5 years, if not longer. As of right now, the boats have been outdoor, so every time it snow, I have to go out there and get the snow out. Because it's a catamaran boat where it's got a trampoline on it. And last winter, when I was working and I wasn't getting it a couple times, it created a hole in the snow, the wind, the snow. So by placing them under the windshield, I won't have to deal with the snow every time it snows.
So because you're gonna park the vehicles outside instead of inside, would you, be willing to put additional screening up between you and your neighbor? I'm guessing that's the concern now, because now you're gonna be parking stuff outside as opposed to where it would have been inside, and that's why we granted the original approval for that, knowing that most of the stuff will be inside and hidden. So you have to anticipate there's going to be some sort of, privacy.
On the lean-to, on the side facing the neighbor up the hill, I plan to put a wall up. That's why the siding, I'm waiting the lean-to's frame, that we can continue the siding from the garage across onto the lean-to. That would give a nicer look.
Finished look from that.
Finished look.
Building ends.
So just to say, you're saying that the siding will give it the finished look? Is that what you're
Yes.
saying?
And also why we wanted this on the back of the building, because the neighbors really can't see anything on the back of that building, so everything, or try to keep it streamlined and for the neighbors' sake, not make it look like any more than it already is.
The service was there, so he saw what on site.
Are there any more questions from any of the zoning board members?
Of course.
Hearing no public comment, I would make a motion to close the public hearing. Remember second.
Second.
Thank you, John. All in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is closed. Zoning board members are prepared to deliberate and act upon the application, noting that it's a type 2, which is a residential application, action under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, so no further secret determination is required. And zoning board members will review the standard elements for consideration of an area variance. Again, this is for the square footage, noting that what is permitted in the zoning law is 1,500 square feet. And what is being proposed. Would be 3,826. Oh, you can take a seat, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So we're asked to explain how no undesirable change will be produced in the character of the neighborhood nor detriment to properties nearby created by granting the area variance. And you do want to note the one letter of public comment. And I would categorize it wasn't so much as a change in the character of the neighborhood, but perhaps the timeliness of the project and maybe the unseemly appearance of, a construction project next door for 2 years.
This is the only structure of its kind in the neighborhood. I mean, there are sheds and people do have small detached garages, but the rest of the neighborhood, there is not another building of this size. So it does stand out, and many of the houses there are just small, one-story homes. I know the newer homes in the back are a little bit bigger than you can't see them for that piece of property. But that is a consideration, I think, because of the size of the building already that is there, and that will remain, but now we're adding on to it, so.
And the board is asked to explain why the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some method feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the area variance.
There was no discussion on that, if there were any other options. We looked at any other options of being able to do something different.
And I guess because the proposed buildings, well, the proposed additions are there, they're in place.
Right.
Partially, yeah. Just,
Your question, Chuck?
no, I was just doing the total acreage. This is a tough, because the property is divided between the municipality of Troy and the town of Brunswick. And you have, what, 2.6 total acreage, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Yeah, because it's 1.8, then 0.8.
Are there some wetlands on that piece of property though?
All of that water sheets from the cemetery and actually the hills, all the way from the actual golf course. And that water all runs down in that direction. You did a good job in having that swale around the building to allow for the water to flow around that. And but there was a lot of pumping going on when they were putting the footings in. It was a high water table.
Then the board is asked to describe whether the requested area variance is substantial. Again, noting that it's on a 2.73 acre lot. What's being proposed is 3,126 square feet, what's currently there. 2,946.
Missed it with the house.
Well, I think it is substantial. I mean, they're asking for 880 additional square feet. The initial approval of the structure was substantial at the time that it was approved, and then this would just add to that. Because it is like 2.5 times larger than what our zoning law allows. So I do believe it's substantial.
We're asked to explain how the proposed area variance will not have an adverse effect on physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or district.
Well, it doesn't affect the soil or the air, the quality of the air, the quality of the water or anything, so no, I don't think so.
And then we're asked to explain whether the difficulty is self-created, noting the consideration is relevant, but shall not necessarily preclude the granting of the area variance. Also, right, so something that the applicants want to add to their house, their property, so it's self-created. So hearing no further deliberation, the board has the opportunity to approve, deny, approve with conditions this application. And we would do that by balancing the benefit between the applicant is weighed against any detriment to the community at large or the neighborhood in particular. Would there be any motions that people would like to come up with and talk about that, discuss that further?
I mean, I would suggest that because of the complaint by the neighbor, that there be some screening on that side. She was the only one that complained. And if they could try to expedite the installation of the siding, so the project could at least be a little more appealing to the eye to that neighbor as well.
Yeah, a couple of things. One, on that issue, certainly the screening is one of the factors the board generally takes into account because of the issue of impact on neighboring properties. The length of the construction project, 2 points. One, under our current zoning law, the variance does have a 1-year duration if not acted upon. But if acted upon within that 1-year period, there's no time limit on that. And what then controls is the duration of the building permit that's issued by the building department, but that's a building department issue and not a zoning board issue. And the other point I wanted to make was, I think it's appropriate for the board to consider its prior record on the matter, which is there is an existing area variance to allow up to the 2,940 square feet. And so what's in front of you is what amounts to an amendment to that prior area variance to allow the 880 square feet. That's still within your discretion applying those factors, but I do think the board does have to consider its prior action in approving the 2940.
So the question, Andy, is can we impose a limitation of the work on, like a pending of the approval of the new zoning until the old one is complete? Or would they have to come back?
No, I hesitate on that, John, because there is Chuck, you can correct me if I'm wrong, there is an outstanding building permit.
You have a building permit,
And
yes.
it's still in effect, and if I understand the application correctly, we're trying to incorporate this work into the overall construction project. So it's hard to say you've got to finish one and then start the other one. I just think it's going to place the building department in a tough spot in terms of enforcing any condition on the variance.
So I would make a motion that the board approves this request for an area variance for an increase of 880 feet to continue and finish the work that's already been started. I had a stop work order placed on it. With the condition of a vegetative barrier, which would include 5-foot spruce trees to be planted between the applicant and the neighbor's property line, and 5 foot on center. And Chuck, could I leave that up to your discretion, how that would look? So that it would, be a barrier, a visual barrier of that lean-to that's being built on that side. And in particular, it's for the neighbor of 50 Homestead Avenue. You feel comfortable with that?
I can do that.
So that is the motion that's on the table now.
I'll second that.
Thank you. We have a second, John. I'll ask for your approval. All approved?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 3-1, the area variance is approved. Please continue the work with our hardworking building department, please. Good luck. Have a good night. Thank you. Because what we didn't discuss, and we could have there, an option for the board would be to request the applicant to remove that, to take down that structure that's already been proposed and have stop work order on it. It didn't come to that. Okay, next we'll get to our new business applications. And we'll take a look first at. Sorry about that.
Chuck, you haven't, I've only got one of the new applications.
Here.
That's going to be the Tamarack Road one. Parker, do you have more copies of the others?
So that explains what those 3 extra copies are doing hanging around.
That would do it. I have this one, Parker.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It's everyone else.
it's everyone else, correct. Excellent. No, that's your original. That's okay. I'll make notes if you can just
Oh, that's fine.
give me copies and I'll watch on the day and just put on the just for names.
The other copy I have is not now. But you can certainly have this.
You got a paper clip right here, that'd be fine.
Figure around that.
So you got your signature, the original.
Oh, it was printed out on the clock.
All right.
So
Take
that
yours. All right, okay.
when you print it out on the color printers, because I had the others printed out pretty
confusing.
much all the day, so.
Got it. So that's South Lake Avenue. Beautiful, thank you. Sorry about that.
No problem. Good to get it all straightened out. So first item of new business is 836 Tamarack Road in zoning district R40. What's being proposed is a 3,888 square foot accessory structure garage building on a 7.82 acre parcel. The applicant is proposing a 54 foot by 72 foot pole-borne structure. So this area variance, and one is being requested, is for allowable size, where the zoning law allows for 1,500 square feet. It's being proposed as 3,888, looking for a relief of 2,388 square feet variance. The applicant has a question.
Is it R40 or is it A40?
I thought it was 840.
Well, it says R40 on this sheet that you gave us, but the application says A40. It isn't an A40.
Hi, Ms.
thought it
Wanda Parker. Yes. Ann Clementi, nice to see you tonight. Thanks for coming. So we have one quick question for you. Just confirm, are you in R40 or A40 zoning district?
That's
A, yeah, you're right. What I did, it was a copy and paste error of mine. I used another denial letter that had been in an R40, so that's my bad. I will change that.
You noted that change. So if you could kindly give us a little overview of your proposed project, please. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so in an overview, in respect to,
What are you gonna do? Yeah, what are you gonna do?
okay, so I'm gonna use it for storing and working on equipment,
Okay.
and also, probably a little workshop for doing woodwork.
Right, so that's your intended purpose, would be to use it to do some woodworking, to store some.
Equipment.
Mostly trucks.
And this is a pole barn structure that will be constructed on-site or off-site and brought to the site?
On-site.
Okay. And just approximately, what's the distance between the primary structure, the house, and this proposed building?
I'd say, 80 to 100.
And how would you access this proposed building? You know,
We already applied for a permit for a new driveway that was already installed. That will come in off Tamarack Road and pretty much go right on by the house, right to the other garage.
Or so it would be different from the driveway that you're using now to get to the house?
No, it'd be all one.
Okay.
It'd be all one. It would branch off, like to the right and go to the house, straight up would go to the other structure.
The reason we put in a new driveway is to not be in Jason Nitz's easement. We have the easement to get into our property, but we didn't have our own driveway. So the new driveway goes right up into our property and right straight to the farm.
It's totally on your property now.
Yeah.
100%.
Is there tree removal? Will you have to remove trees behind your house in order to put in the
Yes.
structure?
Yeah.
And this is a two-story building?
No, one story.
One story, okay. Though Chuck, there is no height restriction in,
In an A40, no,
There isn't?
there is not a height restriction in A40. And
Even
it-
though this is a residential?
Believe it or not. Yeah. Let me borrow your books there.
I don't think it'd be more than 22 foot total.
there is a picture in the application of the building. Doesn't have any dimensions on it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure to the peak would, to the peak would be 22 or less, I believe.
22 to the peak, you think?
Yeah.
We tried to change it. After reading the Indian Creek line, I thought it was only one of us for agricultural use.
Which I think the house peak is taller than that.
So you're looking probably what, 512, 612 pitch here?
Yeah, I think the truss design was 512.
I had a couple of questions on the, actually on the, probably, or just on the short environmental assessment. On the first page, number 4, where it says check all land uses that occur on or adjoining or near the proposed action. And you would check residential, but shouldn't agricultural be checked also?
We looked at that and,
It says any adjoining or near the proposed action. So you thought
near,
it's on the
yeah.
Harrington property, right?
Yeah, there's like,
Is it all,
pretty close to 1,000 foot property line between,
Yeah.
is it all agricultural in the same?
maybe about 88.
Well, it's, Harrington's is an ag field.
Across the street, yes, yes,
That should be, yeah.
and adjoining that.
And then on the next page, number 9, it says, does the proposed action meet or exceed the state energy code requirements? And that's checked, yes. And then you're supposed to explain. But is that possibly an error? That
It was, yeah.
Okay, so
It was-
that should be corrected to no.
The one, okay, number 9,
Yep,
correct?
number 9.
Yep, I got it.
That was it.
Okay, so just to review the rest of the application, we made the corrections
C
with the
requirements.
correct zoning district. We made the corrections on the short environmental assessment form. Senior butters and adjacent property, all written out here in Huntington Farms, Charles Wilson, J.N., Huntington Farms again. Is there a question? So if you're unable to get the variance to build this, the larger structure, what else would you do? That's something that the board has to consider. Is there another way that you could store equipment without being able to build this building?
Would have to be outside of that. No.
So, short of a building, the only other thing you're doing is tarping.
So the application looks complete for the purpose of holding a public hearing. So what you just saw before, the application before you, that was a public hearing. So that's what we'll do going forward in December. So it'll be noticed in the paper, it'll be put on the signboard, on the website, it'll be mailed out to your neighbors of this, and then they'll have the opportunity to come and speak for or against. So that will be in December, and I will get a date for you in a minute. No, it's okay. December would be the 19th. Right, it would be the 19th. Are you able to come again on the 19th? It would be at 6 o'clock, we would hold a public hearing to go forward. And if you have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to contact Wendy or Chuck for the department. Do you have any questions for us at this time?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have 218 South Lake Avenue, located in zoning district R15. It was discovered that a 10 by 16 shed was positioned in the setback. This is a corner lot with 2 front setbacks and a vernal creek that is on the property. Let's see, this action and associated grading is in a disputed property area that is created, I would just like to note, maybe a different word, maybe a conflict, a neighborly conflict.
What I put down, neighbor war?
WA war.
Oh, okay,
WA
yeah,
war.
sorry
So
about that.
I'll just
You,
for the-
that whole Ukrainian thing got into me.
Yeah,
It was
yeah,
just,
yeah. With a property owner who resides at 32 Oxford Drive. So the applicant is requesting 2 variances, a front yard and side yard setback. So I'll ask the applicant to come and just kind of give us a little brief summary and overview of the application.
I just read my husband's notes if that's okay.
Of course,
He
absolutely.
isn't able to be here tonight, so my name is Jamie Ash, my husband is Ryan. We purchased our home in May, and shortly after we purchased our home, we have actually had a bit more than a conflict with our neighbors, so Mr.
Golden?
Golden is probably correct.
Okay,
But not on our behalf, we're trying to do the right thing and lead a nice, healthy life. So we have purchased a shed because we have no garage. My understanding there was a garage there prior, but it was falling down. The person who purchased the home and who did the home took that down. So we have nowhere for storage. Our basement floods, so we purchased a shed. Our backyard floods tremendously, which leads right into our basement. The side yard is the only place that we can place this small sorry, it's been said 10 by 16 shed. Yes, 10 by 16 shed. There is plenty of space behind it for us to mow, and next year we plan on putting soil and hydroseeding the property, so that we can make a nice yard for our tiny little family. Unfortunately, we have some neighbors that don't like anything that we do. They've made that very clear to us. They've driven on to our property aggressively. They've yelled at my husband. They have, I've never been there. They've pulled into our driveway, never to knock on the door, just to sit there and watch my husband. I once went over and said, please, if you want to speak to us, just knock on our door. We're pretty nice people. We want to feel. We want to just live a happy little life. We're having a hard time doing it. We're not finding our enjoyment, our quiet enjoyment where we live. The property next to us is vacant. It's overgrown. It's full of trash on the inside. It's not a very nice place. So we're not impeding on anyone's space. We're not making it look trashy. It's the same style as our home is. It's a beautiful shed, actually. We plan on painting it the same exact color as our home next year. Hopefully I don't have to have a permit to paint it. I'm not really sure now. And it's just used really for our outdoor gear, outdoor tools, and things of that sort. So bikes, kayaks, lawnmowers, snow blowers, whatever needs to go in there will go in there. And of course, my 7-year-old likes to use it as his own playground. So that's where we're at.
Thank you for that overview, right. So I just have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Yeah, and if we don't know it, we can, the next time we meet,
Okay.
some of this stuff. But how do you access that shed?
There are 2 doors right on the front of it.
And do you drive into it, or is there like a?
Well, he could drive his lawnmower into
Sure.
it.
Okay. And you said that the purpose of the building is for storage of outdoor equipment.
Correct.
So we'll just review the application, noting again that it's in R15. We have the abutters, the adjacent property owners down. And so the front setback is required is for 60 feet, and what's being proposed is 25. Is that correct?
They're at 2510.
So you said it was, the property is non-conforming. Is that because the house sits too close to the front setback?
Yes, it's another one existing non-conforming. It's, I would say, this one really isn't because of the corner lot, because it's the front of the house that's too close.
Right. So
The porch, approximately the first 2 steps of the porch, because you can see in the one picture that I took that shows, I think it was it labeled behind house, I believe. When you see, one more.
oh yeah, okay, so there's the
You
house.
see on the 2810 here,
Mhm.
and the house is in front of it.
Yeah, okay, so that's non-conforming, but this shed sits back a little bit from the house.
Right.
It's not in
South-
line with the.
Correct.
Right, South Lake Avenue is here,
Mhm.
and that is approximately.
It's basically in the center of the side of the house.
Mhm. Do you know how much space is between the shed and the house?
Enough for us to have a tiny little yard on the side that will be dry. It's the only dry area that we see that we'll have. We're trying very hard to make all of our yard dry, but I don't think that will happen.
So then, so the 2 setbacks, and then the second would be the right side, where it's required 15, and what's being proposed is 4. And that's illustrated in this picture and the packet.
Yeah, that was the surveyor's partial survey.
We also have our own survey coming because that survey is very crooked. And every form that we've looked at through the town, it's a straight line that goes back. And this particular surveyor, our neighbor's surveyor, has the line kind of going like this. So we can't get a surveyor there though until January because we called 11. No one answered except for one person. And I said, you have our business. And he said, I can't get there until January. I said, okay. Okay, great. So, different.
So then, Andy, I'll ask that question of you then. So if there's another survey that it wouldn't come in if we were in December, is there some diffusion in the information that we
Within your discretion to schedule a public hearing. That information is in front of you to consider.
Right. So the application then, the information that we have is in dispute of what the applicant says?
Well, a couple of points here. The issue of any relations between individual neighbors is irrelevant.
Sure.
You're looking at the location of
Right.
an accessory structure regardless and compliance with the setbacks. And number two, what you have in front of you now I haven't looked at it, but is presumably a survey stamped and sealed by a professional land surveyor. And if the app,
It's not.
is it
Well,
stamped?
it is a portion of a survey.
Portion of
He
a-
did that line. He shot that line.
Okay. So we don't,
And he sent it to me in an email. I can certainly get it packaged in a, stamped type format, I would assume. He just emailed it over to me.
And if the applicant is going to submit her own or their own expert proof on that issue, that should be in front of the board for your consideration, because it will impact the requested extent of variance.
It came to our attention that there has been several opportunities where people have done multiple surveys, and on occasion, they're not necessarily always the same. And this line that goes like this is not accurate.
so we'll take that into consideration for now. Just kind of continue to review the
Sure. I
application.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So from the application, which I commend the building department, it's very well put together.
You
Appreciate all
can
the-
condemn the building part.
I don't want to do that. I really like that, and you're good, you're nice too. But one of the pictures here, so what I see from the pictures, because I haven't been to your property, of course, you haven't given me permission to do that yet, looks like encroachment. Given the line that we're working with in this application, which shows where your property is and where the neighbor's property is, it looks like fill was placed on neighbor's property.
We're not discussing fill though, right? We're just discussing my shed placement.
Yeah, right, so,
We had discussion with the Blairs
mhm,
several times, and it's been discussed with us from folks that work in this building, that if we're over by inches. Not feet, not yards, by inches. And if that's the case, then we will do what we need to do to come back. However, we're doing nothing, we're gonna beautify that outlandish looking property that's next to us currently.
sure, right,
Placing grass seed there next year.
right,
Yeah.
and I
We're not
appreciate
trying
that.
to place our shed on there. Our shed is not on there.
Right, but from the pictures,
Mhm.
and it is pertinent to what the boards would looking at, like as we saw in the public hearing, we considered standards and elements and the character of the neighborhood, and we take all of that into consideration.
Okay.
So, the fact that there's fill, which is associated with this project on your neighbor's property, I think it is important to consider at this time.
I would prefer to get an attorney, actually.
You
Because I
can-
think that we're moving away from the problem. The problem for us tonight is to discuss the shed. And the fill that's under the shed is not encroaching their property.
Right, but the fill
And
that's,
perhaps it's maybe just because you all need to go and actually see for yourselves.
If
or
you'd
wait
like to
until
retain
we-
an attorney, you can retain an
Until we-
attorney.
Until we,
Absolutely. You can certainly retain an
okay,
attorney
I
and present.
appreciate that, until we have our
so then
survey.
let's do that now.
Yeah.
So then let's take a breather. We have your application. Everything except that disputed boundary line looks complete for going forward. But let's not go forward, and let's wait until you are comfortable with the survey that you want us to see.
Okay, perfect.
So we'll put the ball in your court. You've given us sufficient information for now. And when you are ready with the surveyor that you've contracted with in January, let's pick up then.
Okay, perfect, so I should contact you once he's not reaching out to us until the end of December.
Of course, sure. Yeah, it's a busy time. I appreciate
And
that.
then he'll give us a date for
Of
January.
course.
So at that point, I'll reach out to you and
Yep.
state
Yep, to the building
to
department.
the
Yep.
building department.
And say, hey, I got the surveyor. He's coming January 24th. And then I'll be able to produce his work.
Perfect. I don't know how long that takes.
Well, the January, but also just for your sake too, the January meeting, I believe, is probably gonna be held on the 16th.
Okay.
But is that Martin
And it
Luther
might
King Day?
be
I'm not sure if
a
we're gonna
holiday.
postpone.
It usually is in January, the
Yeah.
holiday, and it's usually the week after.
It might be the 23rd,
Okay,
so just giving you a heads up, you might want to recontact them to make sure that the work is done before that, so you can come before us.
I'm
by the
gonna do my
January meeting?
best.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get them there.
Just trying to give you the time of the meeting, so you know they
Yeah.
can come prepared for it.
I'm trying to get a sooner date, but unfortunately, he's not.
So we meet every month.
Okay.
So when you're ready, please come back
Okay, perfect.
and just notify Chapel when you want to do that.
Okay, perfect. So we'll call the building department, or come down, or whatever the case may be.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. And then anything else from you?
No, you're all good, Jane. Thank you for coming tonight. I look forward to seeing you in 2023.
Great, thank you so much. Happy New Year.
Who are you using for surveyor?
I'm gonna ask his name. It was someone that you also said his name as well.
Danskin, possibly, or Holbritter?
Holbritter.
Yeah.
Brian, is
That
his
would-
first name?
That
No,
would-
and we've worked with him many times.
Okay. He's the only person.
And he's very busy, so.
Yes, they all are. He said that he spoke to all of his coworkers and people in the field, and they're not calling anybody back. And he's like, how do you do that? So, all right, well, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Good night. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you as well.
Thank you. So the next up, we have 664 Hoosick Road. This is Wendy seeking a sign variance. Note that they're in zoning district B15. And the way that the applicant and the building department have worked together, there's going to be a total of 7 signs on this parcel. 2 which are permitted under the zoning law, 5 which will need a variance. So we're gonna hear more about that. They want, I thought they only wanted 5 signs. Well, thanks
Yes.
for, yeah. and-
You're
and
right.
we'll-
We're trying to streamline this so it doesn't get all screwed up. We decided we're only going to put in front of the board what needs to be approved. So the 7, whereas the Wendy's face is approved and the sign on the pile.
That's what we did for Kentucky Fried Chicken.
We try to get all.
We only looked at
Yeah.
over and above what was needed.
You're confusing me. I'm just. Hello, introduce yourself and kind of give us an overview of your project, please.
Tom Wheeler with AJ Sign Company.
Hi, Tom, welcome.
Tom Wheeler. Basically, this is a typical fast food restaurant, similar to the KFC that was created about a year ago, similar to Taco Bell down the road. We have the Wendy's signs on both sides of the building, the Wendy's, the grill, facing the grill in the front. We have a pre-sale menu boards. When you pull up that drive-through, you get the pre-sale board, you can see what's on the menu, then you have your order board after that, for those 2 e-commerce signs. there's a little sign as you're pulling out that says thank you, like when you're leaving the drive-through.
Yeah, they had to put her face on there.
What's
If you
that?
just said thank you with no face, it wouldn't have been a sign.
Yeah,
But they put her face on the bottom.
Since they put Wendy's little face on the bottom, that's this. It's 7 inches by 3.5 feet, so it's small. That's really about it. It's really pretty much a typical fast food restaurant. The signs again, so people can, it's a busy area, so people can see it from both directions. They can find their way to that menu board, get in, get their order. Thank you sign, honestly, it's just a nice little thing that really can do as you're leaving. It's really about it.
So I kind of lost track. I had 3, I was working with you with 3, but I'm missing 2. It might be the signs on the side. Are you're requesting a variance because the signs are on the side and not the front?
Yeah, we have Wendy's, the girl in the front, and then we have Wendy's, the word Wendy's on both sides.
Got it. I think those are the 2 that I was missing. Thank you.
We have pre-sale boards, the menu board.
And noting that you're staying within the overall size allowance.
Yes, they're well under the 300 square foot. I didn't even work those numbers. But I don't even think you're using half of it, are you?
Like 180 something.
Is it 180?
I double checked it, just to make sure. I didn't write it down, but I knew it was under the 300, so.
And we ask this of all applicants when we do our deliberation. So what would you do if you weren't granted this variance? What's another way that you can kind of go about to make it known where you are, let people, the travelers know where you are, if you weren't allowed the total of 7 signs?
It'd be tough because, again, it's more directionally. So if you took away one side of the building, that side, people would know it's a lane. The menu board, the pre-show board, you really need those this day and age to pull up, but that's the order process. It's all connected to a POS system. The one sign I guess we get rid of is the thank you sign, which is pretty harmless. But
Just take your face off it and it won't be a sign.
Face off, it won't be a sign, but they want face, so I'm not trying to put face. That's just branding, honestly. They like to have the ones, the real face.
The site plan doesn't show it well, but exposure from the east is very limited
Very limited.
because of the car wash right there.
Yeah.
And they would have had a little more room there, but they took the bypass lane out. So now the drive-through lane is right next to the car wash. So you've only got 12 foot.
The 2 Wendy's signs on the side of the buildings, those are illuminated.
Yep, they're illuminated channel letters, yes.
And they'll be illuminated during operation, hours of operation only?
That's typically what they do, yeah, shut them off when they're closed so that people know they're closed.
Do you happen to know the hours of operation at that particular Wendy's?
I can tell you, I have no idea.
Use a magnifying
I can
glass.
try to find out.
Try to read.
I'm sure it's gonna vary seasonally, but I can try to find out.
Or just a little later at night than the car wash.
And the car wash closes at what?
Well, but they're technically open 24 hours for people who use the self-service bays and
Sure.
the other bays.
Yeah, they just close the drive-through and the vacuums.
I don't have any questions.
Any more questions?
No, I do have a fact though, that who's, is his name Tom? Who was the created Wendy's? He started at KFC.
Yes, he did.
Really?
Yes,
was on
he
TV
did.
recently.
Yes, he did.
But
Food that makes America.
David Thomas started at KFC?
You know, he
He
didn't
was-
start it, he worked there.
He started
and
working
made-
at a
Made
KFC.
it very, very successful and standardized a lot of stuff. And
Broke it
bought,
up.
well, he bought,
Split ways with a different idea.
he bought stock in the packaging. And then the owner of the company tricked him and bought his stock back and
For pennies on the dollar.
for nothing. So
I
he
saw that.
left and.
It's an interesting
Oh,
documentary, actually.
Hmm.
Yes, yeah.
But that explains a lot. If he was in packaging, that's why the hamburgers are square.
We come up
Because
with-
it's
he
a lot
come
of
up with
weights and
bucket.
space to put around.
He come up with the bucket of chicken. That was his
All right, so
idea
this
for the bucket.
application appears complete for the purpose of holding a public hearing
And now they're
Which will be
building buildings that
December.
look like a bucket.
on the 21st. Yes. Great. I think that's about 6:15, because we have one before you.
Sounds good, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Have a good night and happy Thanksgiving.
Hey, off the record, you guys did the sign for my fire department. Did a great job.
What's that?
You guys did the sign for Brunswick One for the Maltese Cross. You guys did a great job on that.
Which one?
For Brunswick One down in Sickaway,
Okay,
small Maltese Cross in the building.
we're working on 650 music too, that might be right now.
So they come out really good. You guys did a good job on it.
All right, are there any other new business items you'd like to discuss before we adjourn, or?
We didn't, I expected to see the Indian Creek folks here,
Yeah,
and they're not. I don't know if I was supposed to give them a special invitation. I assume they would know when the zoning board met. And that they have I don't know, you would call that an appeal. And Ann asked me, where is the variance application? And there is not one.
He won't submit one.
He won't submit one. That's because he feels that he has an agricultural exemption and he does not need a variance for this.
So is there any historical information that the boards would have considered in the past when determining, like if has there ever been another case where somebody has come in and said, I'm ag exempt? And what is ag exempt? I mean, what standard should we use to determine if somebody is ag exempt?
We pretty much use the standards in the ags and market, where you need to have $10,000 of proceeds of
So you
farm.
have to have applied to the town for an ag
Well-
exemption.
Ag and markets is what controls that.
Well, I
And
don't know.
there are certain parameters that he has to
Yeah,
meet for that.
yeah.
And we have it, the definition of that in our zoning law. The what?
Where?
For the, in the definitions at the very beginning.
So if I can make a couple of
Yeah.
points on this.
And you can,
First, I'm going to note for the record and advise the board that I have been involved with the building department on this particular matter while it is pending at the building department. That does give rise to a conflict of interest. I should not serve as counsel for this board when the property owner has made an appeal from a building department determination to this board. That does present a conflict when I in fact have worked with the building department on its prior determinations of the case. So the board will need to seek separate counsel to assist in this appeal. That would be an expense of the town, so there will need to be coordination with the town on retaining separate counsel to advise the board on the appeal. And with the board's authorization for that, I can certainly start that process with the town for retaining separate counsel to assist the board on the review of the appeal. Now I'm going to go through generally what's in front of you without getting into the particulars of this case. The zoning board has only appellate jurisdiction. In the ordinary course, the building department will make certain determinations about area, height, setbacks, lot coverage. And if the building department determines an application is not compliant with those area requirements, then the applicant technically appeals, and the appeal is the area variance application. Same applies for use. If the use is not allowed under the zoning code for that particular zoning district, the building department, Chuck acts as building inspector, but he's also the code enforcement officer and is the first party to interpret what the zoning code provisions mean. If Chuck determines, the building department determines that a particular use is not allowable in that zoning district, a property owner or an applicant can then appeal and seek a use variance. And that's been in front of this board before. What the law also allows is if a property owner receives a determination from the building department that he thinks is simply incorrect, it's wrong, the property owner has a separate right to appeal that. Simply an appeal, the position being the building department is wrong. And in that case, that's in our zoning law, you hear variances and you do hear appeals. In those types of applications to this board, it is truly in the nature of an appeal. I think the building department's wrong. Here's my argument. Here's my basis for my conclusion that the building department is wrong. Here's the record. And what a zoning board will do in those cases is review the record, and you literally sit in review of what the building department determination is. You step into those shoes and you independently assess whether the building department was correct or not. And the board can either affirm that decision, modify it, or reverse it. That's within your discretion. It's almost in the nature of a legal appeal. I think the building department's wrong. I'm not seeking a variance. I just think the building department's wrong, and I should be allowed to do what I think I'm entitled to do. That's the nature, as I review it, of what's been submitted to the board. But you should have separate counsel to actually review the merits of this, review the arguments. There may be some other legal issues associated with the appeal in front of you. And that's the need for separate counsel to assist you in that process. I'll give you this example too. Many years ago, and I think John was the only one who was on the board at the time, there was a similar appeal that was filed by Oakwood Property Management, Gallaudet companies, for their property down on Oakwood Avenue. And in that case, that property owner thought the building department determination concerning certain activities on that property was wrong. They didn't seek a use variance. They just said the building department's wrong. And there was an appeal in front of this zoning board. John, I think, was a member then. And the board took evidence and arguments from the appellant. They took evidence and arguments from the building department. If you'll recall, I represented the building department on that matter in front of the zoning board. And there is a public hearing component to this. The zoning board took comments from the public on those issues. Yes. And then closed the record, and there was a written decision on that particular appeal. That's the process that you can go through on this as well. I don't think I'll be sitting here representing the building department on this one, but you're able to hear from all parties involved, the appellant, certainly the building department, as well as members of the public. And with the assistance of counsel, you'll go through and determine whether the building department acted properly and acted in compliance with the code. In this case, and you render your own determination. Another way to look at it is you literally step into the shoes of the building department, review the information in front of you, and you render a determination to see whether the building department is correct or incorrect. And that's the nature of an appeal. I've done many of these on behalf of property owners in front of zoning boards, and that's the same procedure that's routinely followed throughout the state.
Will we be able to retain Tom Chaffee?
No, both, just
Both
to
of
make
you are
it
out?
clear for the record that both Tom Chuck and I have assisted Chuck in certain issues on this matter. This is not a new matter, it's been pending for quite some time. There's issues associated with the fact that it has been pending for such a period of time. But again, that's why there should be independent counsel to provide counsel to the board members.
So please, kindly tell the town board that you would like to see independent counsel, and that they would need to pick up the bill. Pay for it.
In so many words. That's right.
Right. Because we can't ask the applicants to do that. For their appeal.
Is this selection process something that has to be put out to bid? I mean, are we looking
No,
at three
no,
bidders on
no,
this
no,
like
this
Tom
is-
usually requires?
These are professional services, so it'll be within discretion of the town. But that'll be followed up by the town.
Any other questions or concerns?
I gave the handouts to you, which include the letters and all of the planning board activities regarding that case.
Thank you.
And there's, with that timeline, which is fairly good, if you have questions or don't have material or want to see more material that's brought up that I didn't include, let me know. And we can get that to you. I mean, obviously, this is something that, I'm all going to have to get together for whoever we have representing us, the council. So. In the case of the planning board, I copied the whole thing. It was just easier to do that way than rather take pieces from it. So you'll see on the top, most of the time Wendy's and this page here from May 18th shows that on page 6 and 7 is the information that you would like. Because I think this, one of those is when Stewart's was there, and it's rather large. And I might have just done the cover on that, because I believe it was 14 pages. So I might have just done a cover, and then I think it went to page 10, I believe. So that's all there. Any questions you got?
I make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting with the member of second. Thank you, Patricia. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So I think you back about the ASH application.